Hi everyone. Okay, I'm Simeon Gabriel, your tutor, and we'll continue from where we stopped from the last class. Okay, we did the setup, environment setup, installation, and we talked about a few essentials. We looked at how we wrote our first program in our last class. So we'll be going ahead to continue with data types and structures. We just gave a little um, illustrations about data types, and now we're going to talk about data structures. But before that, we're going to do a recap on data types. Now, I told you earlier before, whenever you want to open a new shell, you want to work on a new page on Jupyter Notebook, what you have to do is you go to the right hand side here. Look at this place, you see new, you click the drop down, you go to Python tree. So whatever pattern you're using, you see the IPY kernel. That is, you click there. Okay, we have to for it to load. Yes, now we have a page here that we want to work with. Okay, then we continue from where we stopped. Now I told you there are some basic data types in Python. Like we have the integer, we have the float, and we have the strings. So Python support different and various data types, and there are two main numeric data types. There are two main numeric data types. I told you in the last class. We have integer and we have float. We say integer. Okay, let's see. Integer can be okay. 3 is an integer. When we are having 3.1, 3 point whatever, whenever you're having a decimal numerical value with a decimal point, it's called a float data type. And whenever you are just having a whole number, it's called an integer data type. So we'll move further. Now let's try something. We'll say let's try something. Int number is equals to 1 over 2. Let's see what this will give us. Sorry, before that, let me specify what we are doing here today. I told you whenever I want to specify a heading, you put a hashtag, then you go to this place, you see the drop down, go to markdown, then you see it's now bold. So you continue from here. So we have basic data types. Okay, then let's say I want to talk about the basic data type integer and float. Okay, then you click run. Okay, you see we have a heading there, so that will tell us the major things we are doing. That is why I'm including the heading. So I say the two main numeric data types are integer and float. Now we have an integer value divided by another integer value. Now let's see what the output will give us. int number. Okay, let's click run. Now you see we're having 3.5. 3.5 is a float data type. You see, it's giving us a float. Okay, so I told you whenever you're having an integer with a decimal point, a numerical value with a decimal point is called a float data type. So just a recap of what we did last time. Now we are having still on the basic data types. Now we look at strings. Okay, we have powerful flexible built-in string processing capabilities. Now we have we can manipulate our string value to so many things. So now we're going to be looking at the data type strings. Okay, now let me specify what we're doing here. So I want to do a heading. Remember, whenever you want to do a heading, you go to the drop down here. Okay, let's see, basic data types. Okay, we're specifying here string. Why I didn't talk much on the integer and float is because we discussed it in the last class. So what I have to do is just run. Okay, we have, let's create a variable string. Let's say string 1 is equals to. Now whenever you want to create a string value, always remember you can put a quotation mark. It can be single quotation or it can be double quote. Okay, so now I'm using the single quote here. Let me type something inside. First string. Okay, come here. Let's see, string 2. Okay, I want to use a double quote. You can see still the same thing. Second string. Okay, I want to use a 3 double quotes. I want to use a 3 double quotes. Let's see, string, let's say string 3 is equals to, let me do a 3 double quotes. Okay, we're having a 3 double quote here, and let's say third string. Okay, now let's run so that we can add it. Okay, let's print those variables we initialize. This is what we have initialized, so we want to print them out. So let's say I told you whenever you want to output anything in Python, you use the print function, print parentheses, then if it's a, okay, since we have already initialized the values here, what we have to do is to call on the variables. So let's call on string 1. Okay, I just want to print them at once. Print string 2. Okay, third one, print string 3. Okay, now we're going to do the run, execute it. Now you see, I told you whenever you are putting, it will always come out in the order. Whenever you execute your code, it will come in the order in which you placed it. Okay, now this is what is the print string value here. Now let's move to a non and boolean. Okay, basic data. I know you'll be surprised why am I writing without going here, but I'll show you something. Basic data types. Okay, we're having the non and boolean. Okay, now you see I can go to my drop down here, go to markdown. See, I'm having a bold here, so I'll run. Okay, so Python also supports non and boolean data types. So I will be telling you what non-data type are no value type. They are no value. They are having a value that is null. Okay, now for example, number, let's say this number x, okay, is equals to none. Okay, you see this none, you see Python is a case sensitive language. So this none, for it to output a null value type, you have to use the capital letter N as the starting, then you see that's a different color from the other. Now let's try and use let's start with, you see, we started with the small letter, and you can see, so let's see, indicating a null value type. Okay, now let's do a logical operation. Boolean means true or false. In programming, Boolean, anywhere you see Boolean, means it's a data type that include true or false. Okay, so let's see whether this null value type is a data type, is a null value type, or it is not. So let's do num x is none. Is an inbuilt attribute in Python, so we are doing the num x is none. Let's see what it will output for us. It will output true or false, so we are asking it's none. So you see true, that means true is a Boolean data type. It's a Boolean value, sorry, it's a Boolean value, true. Okay, now now let's make another statement. Num underscore x is equals to 10. Okay, let's ask, we're asking now that num x, is it a null value data type? Okay, let's see, it's none. Whether it's true or false, you see it's false. It's giving us the false here. False, I told you false is a Boolean type. Okay, so Boolean have true or false, integer are for whole numerical value, then float are for what? Answer that yourself. Okay, we move ahead. Now we have what we call type. I want to do a heading here. That what we call type casting. So I'll return here, come back down, see it has changed. Okay, typecasting. You can change the data type of a number using what? Using the typecasting. The data type of a particular number, you can change it using what? The typecasting. Now let's try something. We want to use the float. Let's call the variable float number is equals to, now we have a float number, let's say 3.6467. okay, let's use it. Whatever value you want to use, you use. So this is a float number. And why is it a float number? You know it, right? Because having a what? Decimal point here. Okay, now let's look at this. Let's print out this float type, float number. Let's put it. You can see it's already put there. Now we say that we're talking about typecasting. We say you can change the data type of a number using typecasting. Okay, now let's see if we can change this number here to an integer value. Okay, let's say to an integer. Let's say int. This is a way to do it. You first of all write the data type you want to change it into, and you put parentheses, then you type the variable that is holding the value you want to change. So now I want to change this float number to an integer number. Okay, let's see. I want to type the variable in it. Now mind you, I told you this is just a placeholder. It is holding this value here. So we are indirectly saying integer. We are changing a float number, this value, into an integer. That's what we are doing now. So let's see what happens here. Okay, wow, you see it. I told you what this thing will do is it will change this float number here to an integer. So the integer is a numeric whole number. So you can see. Now let's see if we can change it to string. This did the same float number. Let's see if we can change it to string. And I told you, whenever you are changing any data type to another data type, the data type you want it to be to change into, you first indicate it. So we want to change it to string, and string value has a function with string str, open parenthesis. So str is used to indicate string value, while numerical value are what, int. So now I want to change this float value to what, to a string. So let's see, float number, still the same number we used here. So let's see how we can change it to a string. Okay, you see it has been changed to a string. I told you strings has quotation mark, either a single quote or a double quote. That's to indicate that it's a string. So we've changed it to a string. You can see it's having a quotation mark. Now let's move further. We'll be talking about we are done with data types, and we'll be talking about data structures. Let me add data structures. Now I want to create a heading. Data structure. Okay, we have so many data structures. We have tuple, we have list, we have dictionary, we have set. So we're talking about the 4 of them, if time permits us. Okay, talking about tuple first. So I told you, whenever I want to create a heading, we have to come to this drop down, choose markdown, and you run. Okay, now we say, let's say something. Okay, let me type something here. Okay, I want to comment a tuple. A tuple is one dimensional. I'm writing this so that we can be able to see this. Whenever you mistake the definition, you can return back to this. Items, okay, which can be mixed data types. Okay, now why I'm writing this here is so that we can not forget what a tuple is. Here we're saying a tuple is one dimensional immutable ordered sequence of items which can be mixed data types. Now this is what we mean. This is what we mean by saying that a tuple is one dimension. One dimension means it has one row. I mean, it has, this, let's say, for example, let's write our first tuple. This is what we mean by saying something is one dimensional. This is it. Okay, now we say it's one dimensional. Okay, let me just write, let me finish with this. Okay, let's say 45, or let me just put 4.6, 5.6, comma, let's say new, let's say let's have something in the brackets. Let's say 3 comma 2. Okay, let's say comma, let's say text. Okay, let's say test. Okay, now this is a tuple. A tuple is one dimensional. This is one dimensional. It is one row, and we say it is immutable. As we go along, I will explain what that means. And sequence of item which can be mixed data type. So in a tuple we can have different type of data types here. You see here we have the integer, here we have the string, here we have the float, we have another tuple in a tuple, so you can see it. So now let's try and run this and see. Run. Since we are not having any error, it means tuple is correct. So the first, let's put it first tuple. So let's see. You see, and mind you, a tuple is always having a bracket parenthesis, a curved parenthesis. You see, a curved parenthesis, unlike a list. So let's move further. So we have created a tuple here, and we have put a tuple. You can see now, and there are so many functions in a tuple, so many functions. So now we've viewed the tuple here. Here we created a tuple. I told you one of the good ways they will know you as a good programmer is when you write comments on your code. What we did here, we created a tuple, and what we did here, we view tuple, and what we did here, so control backslash comment. So okay, we move further. Now you can see, now we're having different data types here, different values here in a tuple. Now I want to access this tuple. I want to access a value in this tuple. What do I do? Mind you, this tuple, there are how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 values in it, and the first value is having the index number 0. Mind you, remember, it's having the index number 0. So we start counting 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're having 6 values here, but in the top, where you start counting from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I want to access the data as the index value 1. What do I do? So I say first, okay, now let me comment on it. Let's see whether we can access the data. Access the data at index 1. Okay, now let's see how we can access the data. I want to access the data of index 1. So I told you this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the index starts from 0 in a tuple. So let me access the index 1. What will I do? I have to refer to the variable. The variable is first tuple. First tuple is equals to, okay, sorry, first tuple. Now when you want to access an index number from this tuple, what you have to do is you write the variable, then you use a square bracket, and you indicate the index number. Now we say we want to access the index number 1. So we are, you see, I wrote number 1 inside here. So let me run so that you see it. See, it has brought out check for us. And now let's start counting. 0, 1. So Jack has the index number 1. Then we'll move further. Let's see how we can modify. Let's try to modify the tuple. Modify, let's try to change it. That's what I mean. Okay, let's try to modify. Okay, let me comment on it. Try to modify the tuple. Okay, let's try to modify the tuple. Okay, let's try to modify the tuple. I told you whenever you want to add other cells on the Jupyter notebook, what you have to do is what? The cell that you are on already, just press your escape button. You see, to change color to blue, then you press B. Since I'm pressing B, it's increasing. So let's try to modify the tuple. Want to modify. Okay, that's want to change. Okay, let's change this Jack to Mark. Okay, let's write first. Whenever you want to refer to the tuple, always use the variable. So that's what I'm doing. The variable of this tuple is first tuple. So first tuple. Then I use my square bracket, indicating that I want to change Jack, and Jack is index number 1. So I have to write number 1 here. Then we'll indicate what we want to change it to. Mind you, to not work. If we do that, it will not work, but we'll still try it and see. Now this is why I say I will explain this immutable for you. We say a tuple is one dimensional. I explain that this is a one dimensional. Then and a tuple is immutable. It's immutable. Immutable. It means you cannot change it. Okay, you cannot modify. You cannot modify in a tuple. You cannot modify means you cannot change anything that's already been written in a tuple. So let's try to change this value in the index number 1. We're having first tuple. We have indicated that we want to change index number 1. So let's change it to Mark. Let's see. So we are getting an error. I told you in tuples you cannot change, you cannot modify. When you're having a tuple, you cannot modify. You cannot modify. Okay, you can access a tuple using indices. I told you before, you can access a tuple using indices. Here we wanted to access this index. This Jack here is having an index number 1, 0, 1. That is why I used the 1 here. Okay, but you cannot modify. Now let's see. We already created a tuple. So let's see how we can. Okay, let me type accessing elements using a positive index. Okay, let me use the comment here. The index count starts from the left. Okay, comma, with the first index being 0. Yes, like I said, accessing elements using a positive index, we started with 0, and the index count starts from the left. We start counting from this side. You don't start counting from here. So I start from the left. We start with the index value 0. So you can see. Now let's access new. Let's access new. Okay, try to access new by yourself. Just pause the video, try to access new. Okay, let me do that for you. in case you did it, and find out whether you got it right. First tuple is the variable of the tuple we want to access. Okay, mind you, don't make mistake, because if you make mistake, Python is a case sensitive programming language. So okay, when you want to access a value in a tuple, you use the square bracket. Now I want to access new. Let's start to count 0, 1, 2, 3. The third index 3. Now let's go to our run. See, we're having new here. Okay, we're having new. Okay, now we'll try as much as possible to okay, what next? Mind you, we can also access this new by coming this way, by coming from the back. I told you, don't misquote me, I told you that I made mention of it here. The index count starts from the left and it starts with index number 0. But if you want to access it from behind, now this text, the last number becomes -1. Consecutively, as you move backward, it becomes -2, -3, -4, and so on. So what will happen here is, I want to access this new. I want to access it. Now let me count backward. And if you're counting from the back, you start with -1. This is -1, -2, -3. The new is -3. Let's see whether we are correct. Let me type first tuple, which is the variable, and square bracket -3. Let's see whether we want to put new. Run new. You see, we got the same thing. So you can access it from the left, you can access it from the right. But when you're accessing it from the right, it becomes a negative value. It starts with a -1. Then when you're accessing it from the left, which is the normal way, you start from the index value 0. So now let's move further. I hope you're following up. Okay, we look at another operation which you can do in a tuple. Now we did how to access a tuple here. Okay, let me add up. We did a way of accessing a tuple. That's what we did there. I want to change that to heading. So that's what we did there. Now let's slice. Let's do slicing tuple. Okay, slicing tuple. Sorry, control backslash. Excuse me. Now we're on. Excuse me. Okay. Now you can also slice a range of elements by specifying the start and end indices of the desired range. Okay, now you see, you can do that. You can do slicing. Okay, let's see what I mean here. Okay, we have the top. Let me still write at top here. Sorry, let me still write at top here. Okay, let's just copy it. Just copy it, but I don't advise you to copy and paste. Let's copy, paste. Okay, still want to use this same top. Now creating a subset or slice of the top. That's what. Okay, let me write it. Creating a subset or slice, whichever one you want to use. Slice of the top Okay, we'll specify the indices of the element separated by a column. and the first index is inclusive, the second index is exclusive. Okay, we want to see how we can slice, creating a subset or slice, whichever one I want to call it, of the tuple. Now what we are saying is you specify the indices of the element, that is the range of elements that you want to output, and that range of elements you separate it by a column. Now the first index is outputted, but the second index is excluded. Let me specify it so that whenever you are going through this, you know what I mean. Specify the indices of the elements separated by a column. Okay, now let me still the first index is inclusive. Mind you, the first index is inclusive, the second index is exclusive. Now let me explain to you what I mean. Okay, let's look at it. Now when we are doing slicing, we're trying to output a range of the values in the tuple we want, of the elements, in tuples, in the tuple we want. So what I would do is, first I have to indicate the variable of the tuple we are talking about. Then you put your, whenever you are doing accessing or any operation on tuple, what you have to do, you have to always use the square bracket. Now want to access the range from from year to year. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the 4. This is having index, this index number 4. So want to output the element within this range. We don't want to cover it to this range, we want to cover it up to this range. So what we have to do is 1, want to include it from okay, 2 to 4, 1 to 4, and let's see what happens. Run. Now mind you, we did not include 0. Like I mentioned there, I say specify the indices of the elements. Specify it. They are separated by a column. You can see the column. So I've specified the indices, the range you want to output. Then the first index is inclusive. So this index here is having the value 1, the index value 1. Index value 1 is this, because this is 0, this is 1. So that means it's going to start with jack, because we say the first index is inclusive. So this is the first index and it's having the value jack, is inclusive here. But we say the index, the second index, the second index is exclusive. So you see this second index having index number 4. Let's count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the second index is not inclusive. That is how we do slicing in tuple. Okay, you can see it is outputted, it stopped here, but it included jack, which is the first index. Now let's try another one and see. I want to put from let's try another slicing, still using the same tuple. Okay, sorry, square bracket. Let's start from, let's say 0 to, let's say to this, to 1. Let's see. You see, it is only the first index 0, which represents 12, that is outputted. but the last one, the second index here, which is 1, which represents jack, is not outputted. So that is how we do slicing in tuple. Now let me do one more thing so that we will go on with our data types. You can, I told you before, you can use a negative indices, use a negative index to output values. And when you are using a negative index, you start counting from behind. So let's see, we're still using the same tuple, first tuple, sorry, using the square bracket. Okay, let's output text, and we don't want to start counting it from the left, and we want to start counting it from behind. And whenever you're counting it from behind, you start with the word negative number 1. But when you start counting from here, it starts with 0. So I want to output this element text. So I mean the last value here, so I want to start counting. It's -1, -1, -1. You see, we're having text here. So that is how it is. Now let me do one more thing on this. Let's still use the same first tuple. We're still using the same tuple, first tuple. Now let's indicate 1 to -2. I told you this is -1, -2. Let's see what this will give us. Okay, you can see from 1, this is 0, 1. See, starting with jack, which is having the index number 1, which is indicated there, then the column, then we indicated -2, and whenever you have seen minus, you start counting from behind. This is -1, -2, and the element there is 3,2. I told you the second index will not be included. You can see it's starting from 1, which is jack, 1, 2, 3. Then this is -2, -1, -2. So the second index is not always included. You can see from this side, the second index was not included. So this is how we do slice operation on Python. So now let's move further. Let's move further with the data structure list. So fast as possible. Okay, data structure. Okay, list. Okay, control \, then come here, markdown, we run. Okay, now we say a list is one dimensional. We said earlier before that a tuple is one dimensional, and now we are saying a list is one dimensional. You can see. Then a list is mutable. That means you can change it. But in the case of tuple, is immutable. So mutable ordered sequence of items. And in the list, we can also have a mixed data type. Meaning we can have different type of data that we have. We can have int, we can have float, we can have string. So whatever data type, doesn't matter. But it must be one dimensional, and it can be changed like that. So remember, the difference between list and tuple is that a tuple cannot be modified. That's what we mean by immutable. But a list can be modified. Let me write it here so that for reference purposes, let me comment on it. A list is one dimensional, like I said. Mutable, which is it can be modified. Mutable or that sequence of item which can be of mixed data types. Okay, now you can see it. Okay, now let's write. Okay, why? Okay, let me if you want to add this. Okay, let's see. Now listen, if you want to decrease the font size of this text, you have to add another hash. Depending on the hash you're adding, that is how it will be reducing. So let's leave it this way. So it can be showing us here that the list is one dimensional. So let's move ahead. Okay, let's say first list is equals to. Okay, now remember, in a tuple, or move up, tuples are always having curved brackets, but in this case, list, you make use of square brackets. You can see it here. Okay, now let's put some element in it. Let's say mark, comma, 1, comma, let's say 3.6. okay, let's say test, what else? Let's use a null value type. Now when you want to indicate a null value type, I told you before, what we're going to use none to indicate a null value type that is an empty value. Okay, that's what we mean by null value type. Okay, then we'll do 11. Okay, right, 11. Okay, so what did you do here? I told you one of the good way, a good programmer is the comments he makes on his code. So let's see, what did we do here? We created a list. So that I create a list. So we've created a list. This is a list. This is not a tuple. This is the variable of our list, first list. And mind you, I said the list is carrying a square bracket, not unlike tuple, which is having curved brackets. Now let's output our lists. Okay, let me run it. I will comment on it. Let's view our list. View the list. Now let's view our list. Our list has the variable first list. Remember, not first tuple, first list. So let's output it and see. We're having the list here, the same thing we have there. See, have the same element. It's okay. So now let's modify. Now mind you, I told you list is mutable, unlike tuple where it's immutable. So let's modify so it can be modified. Modify a list. We'll add new item. That's what we mean. Modify it. Let's add new items to it. Okay, I can just do control backslash. Okay, to change it to comment. Remember. Okay. All right, we move further. We'll say, okay, let's change. Let's modify this guy here, which is called Mark. Let's modify Mark to Jack. Let's modify it to Jack. Okay, what we'll do now, when you want to modify a list, the operation you use when you are modifying a list, what you use the operation append. So let's still call on the variable first list, first list dot append. So let's append, want to add a new item, let's write jack. Okay, then let's output it and see whether it will be added by using the operation, the function append. Append means to add. So whenever I want to, you see we're having jack here, so whenever I want to add anything to a list, use append. Okay, so whenever I want to remove, let's see, first list dot append, let's remove the mark. It's a string value, so you put quotation mark, don't forget that. I mean, we'll write remove, sorry, but I want to remove it. So the operation we're going to do here, we're removing, so we're using the remove function. Okay, let's output it and see. First list, let's see, it's removed. You can see it here. So now let's pop up. So what we did there, we removed the modification we did there. Modify, remove item, control backslash. Okay, so you can see we accessed it there. So let's come to this place. Well, let's do another one. Let's access and remove the list that are using element indices. Okay, want to remove the list that are using element indices. So I want to remove the index number 2. You can see this is 1, this is 0, 1, 2. So I want to remove this 23.6. Let's see, the way we do it is another way of removing, we access and remove is first, we're still using the variable, did the same, list dot pop. We want to remove this one, so let's count 0, 1, 2. So it's 2, having the index number 2. Okay, so we're using the pop function. We're doing the remove operation, so we have removed it. Now let's access the list again to see if we can still have it there. See, text has been removed. So we have two ways of removing an element in a list. You can use the pop function or the remove function. So these are the ways to remove it. Now if you want to insert, what you use is you use the insert, and let's say first list dot insert bracket. So what are we inserting? In this case? Let's insert let's remove this 23.6 and insert Smith. So the 23.6 is having the index value now 1. So 1, comma, what are we replacing it with? Let me say, replacing it with the string value. So let's use Smith. So let me output it. First list, let's see what it will give us. You see, Smith has been inserted. It doesn't change this, it doesn't change what was there. This, we are talking about insert. To insert doesn't mean to remove, so it just replaces the position this 23.6 was. So this, okay, we talked about we can modify the list in so many ways. Okay, now let's access the value with the second index. Let's see what value is carrying the second index. Okay, this is You see 0, 1, 2. So that's 123.6. Okay, we move further and let's access using let's access from the back, like I told earlier. You can also access from the back. Let's access minus 1 and see what we're having. You can see you're having jack because it's the first one from the back. So when you start accessing from the back, you start using minus. So okay, so we go ahead. Yes. Now let's slice list. Let's do a slice operation on list. As similar to tuple, you can also slice list through indices. So the operation we are using here is we are slicing. Okay, let's say we call okay slicing list. Let's just say it. Okay. Let's slice the list. Okay. What we'll do here is let's access the first to fourth first list. The first, I told you when you're accessing, you put only two numbers, the first and the second. The second one will not be accessed, but the first is that the accession of the distance start with the element start with the first one, which is inclusive. So let's see 1, 2, 3, 4. So none will not be included. So let's output it and see what it will give us. You see is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So sorry, 11 will not be included, which is the fourth, which is the second one. So but the number 1 is what? This is 0, 1. So the first number is inclusive. So that is it. You can also access, you can also do first list using the same list. You can say from 0 to minus 1. I told you minus 1 is the last element in the list. So let's access it and see. It's not inclusive. So the last element is not inclusive, which is the second number minus 1. Okay, I hope you understand. So this class, we're done with this class. I'll be seeing you in the next class. We will be talking about the dictionary, which is also nicknamed as DICT, D-I-C-T. So dictionary, we'll be talking about dictionary in our next class, which is also a data structure. And we'll be talking about set also, which is also a data structure. We'll be looking at dictionary and set operation. We looked at so many of the operations on this, which we did slicing on list. We did inserting. You can see inserting here. We inserted Smith in place of the the element having the index number 1. We did the pop, which is also used to remove. Okay, you can remove by specifying the particular, is using the remove function. You can remove through the index by using the pop. Okay, now these are the things we did on the list, the data structure. So we did append. Append is to add, and the append function is to add. So thank you very much. We did a tuple. So many operations within the tuple, which I cannot go back to recap. So this is all for today. See you in our next class. Thank you for attending the tutorials. I wish to do more better in the next class. Thank you very much. See you.